Okay.
Hello, 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 hello. We have had our share of technical difficulties, but we're here. Normal time, fourth Sunday evening, 8 p.m., although we're 9 minutes late getting started. Don't worry about that. I want to welcome you to our monthly dfree webinar chat. Sanaya, who is my right hand, is with me. Tamika, who is my left hand, trying to get in. Hello, Tamika.
Hi,
How are you?
I'm
And
well.
we're expecting a couple of the team members. Ladies, it's so good to see your faces and hear your voices. As you know, I just got back from South Africa, and I'll tell you more about that from a dfree perspective later. But I want to thank you for all the fine work you've been doing, as I always do. We've had a marvelous summer thus far. Technically, this is the launch, really, of our 10th anniversary celebration. It was 10 years ago, 2005, that we launched dfree at First Baptist Church of Lincoln Gardens, and at that point, dfree was a rallying cry. dfree was a pledge. dfree was a rant from the pulpit by the pastor, and dfree was a vision that only one person at First Baptist really supported day one. And now, 10 years later, we are still building momentum. There are times when, based on our telephone calls, our email, our text messages, I feel like dfree is just getting started. But thank God we have a team of young people like yourselves, led by yourselves, that are committed and passionate. And as recent as today in church, we asked people at the 11 o'clock service if they've been blessed by any aspect of dfree, testimony, book, workbook, class, video, if any of the dfree commentary has blessed them. And we had dozens of people who stood at the 11 o'clock service, which indicates that the message is moving, the culture is changing, and it takes time. I mean, the reality is we've got years of bad habits from a personal perspective. We have generations of advertising and marketing and consumption that we're going against. We're literally swimming against the tide. And so we are very slowly and methodically trying to build a response to a culture of debt, a culture that says you're better off spending your money than saving your money, a culture that has shifted really from an historical culture of thrift to an historical phenomenon of spend. We've watched countries like Greece go on the brink of bankruptcy. We've seen states like California threaten to file bankruptcy. We've seen cities like Detroit, Vallejo, California, in fact, declare bankruptcy. And so we really have a global challenge as it relates to how we use resources. And I believe the Bible gives us a real foundational perspective on resources, where the proverb coming out of Solomon's shop says that the borrower is slave to the lender, the rich rule over the poor. And so for the last 10 years, this has really been the primary focus of my personal outreach and our church's infrastructure. Of course, we believe that if you have a relationship with God, you are in the first instance in possession of life's most precious possession. And that relationship comes through belief in and submission to the power of Jesus Christ. We also know that once introduced to Jesus, we're not only objects of faith, but as the scripture says, faith without works is dead, and that our financial management, our fiscal affairs, is directly related to our being disciples of Christ. And so, as Tamika, you know, I've been known to tell audiences that I believe Luke chapter 15 gives us both a perspective on why we have financial challenges and how to get out of our financial challenges. That one chapter of the Bible, the Bible has 66 books, but there's one chapter in one book that I believe can set us free financially. So this is the beginning of a 10-year celebration. Tonight actually is the official beginning. We're going to talk about some of the things we're going to do um, between now and the end of August. We're going to talk tonight about some of the things that we've done over the last few weeks. I've got a couple of special guests that I think will join us to further elaborate on some of our exciting accomplishments. I'm going to share with both of you some news that I haven't had time to share with you. I don't know if you were in church this morning. I doubt it. But I wasn't in the pulpit this morning. And I've got
I
some.
was there. Reverend Gibson saw me, and she said it was good to see me today.
Well, good, good. That's half of you. I
I
noticed
was not, and I'll admit it.
the
Thank you.
glaring silence of your partner, but that's all right. I'm going to tell you some things that I would have told you today had I seen you, and then we're going to talk about some of the important plans that we're making for activities in August, September, and then October. So let's get started. Tamika, while I drink a little water, by the way, I was thinking this afternoon that this is not really a webinar as webinars go. This is more like allowing people to listen in on our team meetings, which is kind of nice. We should put our Monday night calls on video, and then people could really listen.
No.
Uh, and
No.
I have to say, all of you. But listen, Tamika, where were we? Let's not talk about full gospel. I think Rhonda's going to try to come on later. But let's talk about
Okay.
the monthly dfree seminar. I think the last one was probably the best one that we had. Both of you played a very significant role in the success of that seminar. Talk about what happened at the seminar and tell people how they can have access to it even if they are hearing about it for the first time tonight.
Right. So we have our monthly seminar every third Saturday of the month. We traditionally host them at First Baptist, and the last one was entitled Elevate Your Earnings, where we focused on small business efforts, turning your side hustle into a lucrative, I guess, additional stream of income. And we also have Prudential on site to talk about expanding your career options with Prudential. Our panelists were Jay, who actually is building the secret mission of dfree. We have another digital platform that's coming out, and his company is entitled Diviner, and he does software development. We had Sanaya Williams of the Sanaya Williams Group, and then we also had Cheryl, who represented Remax as a real estate agent. And then myself moderated the panel, and I run a management and consulting company in the entertainment space. It was very well attended. We had about 35 people in the room and about 35 people online that joined us. And we had a really engaging conversation around getting started, staying motivated as an entrepreneur, figuring out what your thing is as an entrepreneur, and really, even folks that weren't necessarily starting businesses, we got to the root of what it takes to really get started. And I think it was a very, very, very interactive discussion, and I think people got a lot out of it. It is available on our YouTube channel, so if you go to YouTube/MyDFree, you'll see Elevate Your Earnings on the website.
Yeah, I thought it was excellent. We had great interaction. We had a tremendous response, give and take from the online audience, and it was large enough to really be worth doing, but it was intimate enough for people to be able to have important questions. You were excellent. You were superb. I keep hearing about what you do, and you talk about processes. You actually describe what you do in giving other people advice that day that I've ever heard you describe it. You were good.
Thank you. I also just posted the link to the video in the chat, so you guys can click on that after we're done here and watch.
Well, that's great. That's great. We had some other accomplishments in July. So now you did some work on the dfree website. Where are we with that now?
So we've refreshed the dfree website. If you guys look at it, it looks a little bit different. It's a cleaner look of it. Basically, we've refreshed the refreshed the website, so everything's there. We'll be coming up with some new additional pages, like dfree churches. So what churches are active in dfree? That's going to be coming out this month. And we're also going to probably, we have our partners page, but I know we're thinking about putting up some resources, so our dfree resources as well. So we'll be coming up with some new ways for you to stay connected with what we have going on. Always check out the events page because that's constantly getting updated with the new events that we have going on.
So when you use the word refresh, would normal people just say update?
It's an update. It has a new look. It's a new summer look.
Yeah, it's nice and clean. It got a facial. It looks good.
Yes.
Yeah, that's good. We in 2016, I'm going to kind of jump back and forth between this year and next year. But in 2016, one of the things we plan to do, now that we really have our arms around the technology, I think the way we want it, we're going to be promoting the website through various strategies. Right now, we promote the website through social media, but we don't really have a marketing strategy to drive people to the website. And I think the people who come to the conference in October, the conference will be October 30th and 31st. We'll talk more about the details, but one of the things we want to roll out at the conference is what our marketing strategy will be as we attempt to build the brand. A lot of people are trying to build their own personal brand. I'm not that interested in building a personal brand as much as I am building the dfree brand. It is becoming more and more obvious to me as I approach groups and as I read the news that particularly Black America needs a proactive strategy that is sustainable, that has both personal opportunities and social relevance. You know, the whole quest for social justice in this country is becoming quite confusing because we have a generation that is a post-civil rights generation watching people like Susan Bland be stopped for almost nothing and ending up 5 days later dead in a jail cell. And that kind of incident, even though it doesn't happen every day and it doesn't happen in every city, it's really unnerving for a generation that on the one hand sees an African American president, but on the other hand sees pepper spray in Cleveland being sprayed on them by police without significant provocation. So what happens, you know, for someone my age and my background, I look at the unrest and the disjointed social fabric in our communities, and I look at a young generation that's trying to figure this out, and my response is to not only address the injustice, but to give a coherent, proactive, sustainable strategy for racial, social, and family uplift. And that's what I want to build dfree to be. I want dfree to be understood within the context of a need for social justice, as a need for economic empowerment, as a need for developing a brand that represents a strategy that for this generation can be what We Shall Overcome was for the last generation. Now let me stretch your minds and to fully appreciate what I'm saying. In 2004, during the presidential election, if Donald Trump had announced that he was running for president, people would not have even noticed. It would have been completely irrelevant. Donald Trump has no governmental background. Donald Trump has no public service experience. Donald Trump, albeit his wealth, has no concept of what it means to negotiate contracts with the Communication Workers of America or with other public unions. But in 2015, Donald Trump is first and foremost a brand. Secondly, Donald Trump is a TV star. Thirdly, Donald Trump is perceived to be a self-made billionaire. And in today's culture, his economic capacity has placed him at the head of a slate of candidates who have government experience, who have gubernatorial credentials, who have law degrees. Yet in the most recent poll, I don't know if you ladies saw this, in the most recent poll, Donald Trump is getting 28% of the likely Republican voters in Republican primaries who say we want Donald Trump. Now, what's the relationship between Donald Trump and dfree? The fact of the matter is if Donald Trump said that he would buy the Empire State Building and then resell it to a group of African Americans for $10 million, we would lack the capacity, the network. Most of us could not wouldn't know where to call if we wanted to invest in buying the Empire State Building for $10 million. Without an economic strategy, we watch people like Donald Trump, who has no real credentials as we would assess credentials, rise to the top of a political campaign. And people like ourselves are always marginal and on the outside. And what I have learned, and I think what Butch Graves, Earl Graves' son, actually reiterated at the Baltimore event that we did, is that when we talk about African Americans in finance, we start from the top and work our way to the bottom. We start talking about if all African Americans put $1 into a pot. That's not going to happen. We start by talking about what to do with wealth. Well, if we don't perceive ourselves as having wealth, we won't listen to the rest of the conversation. We talk on levels that don't really address where we are. What I've learned from these testimonies coming in from the field is that the reason dfree is so effective is because we're talking to people right on the level where they live. We're talking to people about premium cable versus basic cable. We're talking to people about Starbucks versus homemade coffee. We're talking to people about having regular rims instead of deluxe rims, getting their nails done once a month instead of twice a month, and what to do with money. And if we don't function at that level, the 40 million African Americans in this country that are desperately in need of closing the wealth gap will never find the gap closed. I think we've experienced that over and over and over again, and I'm convinced now, after 10 years, that rather than folding up my tent and waiting for the Lord to say, well done, it's really time to redouble our efforts to expand on the work that we're doing and really train more churches to teach more people how to be free. So how do y'all feel about it?
I agree. I see it every time we go to an event, every time we go to a different church, people respond positively as if a veil has been lifted from their eyes around finances. You know, it's really exciting to watch people open up to dfree. It's even more encouraging to see them after they've gone through some of the process and see the difference that it makes and understands the value. So I think the more people that we can touch with dfree, the better off we'll be culturally and as a people over the long term. So thank you for not folding up your tent.
Yeah, it's remarkable. I do think, Sanaya, that our efforts will have to really be expanded on our digital platforms. You know, running around the country talking to 200 and 300 people at a time is not as effective as expanding our ability to reach people on their iPads, their iPhones, their Androids, their laptops, etc. So just give us, besides the refreshing of the website, give us an expanded overview of where we're going over the next couple of months from a digital standpoint.
Yeah, so with the release of our online training, I think we'll definitely be able to reach a lot more people without having to travel and go everywhere. So what we're working on right now is coming out with the training course online so that you can take it at your own pace. It's kind of like DIY, but we walk you through it in terms of we give you all of the resources. You'll have to purchase the book and the workbook, and then you'll get access to Pastor taking you through the actual workbook so you're able to work out the classes instead of having to go to a church in person to do it. So that's one of the things we're working on, and that should be coming out, I believe, we're targeting September. Mm-hmm. In addition, we're working on releasing a dfree mobile app, which will just allow you to be connected with where dfree is going and what events we have going on, and just kind of stay connected so that you know what's going on and you're able to attend whenever we have events that are kind of in your area. Also, I've noticed that a lot with the emails that we've been sending out, we've been kind of switching. Instead of sending out everything in one newsletter, we're kind of segmenting it a little bit, and you're getting some resources, you're getting some alerts or notifications with events that we're having. And from the response and the metrics that we see, we're getting a lot more activity and clicks and opens for messages that are coming out that way. So I think, Pastor, keeping it targeted instead of having one full message will also get people more engaged.
Yeah. By the way, you know, when I travel or when I'm even in church, it's very encouraging to me when just one person walks up to me and thanks me for one message. It happened today in church, because you know when you speak as much as I do, you just don't know who's listening, if they're listening. Well, I want you to know, Sinai, both of you, I want you to know that I was in Durban, South Africa last week at the Baptist World Alliance, and the president of the Liberia Baptist Convention, that's all the Baptists in the country of Liberia, walked up to me and thanked me for our newsletter. He subscribes to our newsletter, he reads the newsletter, and he shares it with as many Baptist pastors as he can in the country of Liberia. So little do we know, right, when we push send, that there are people who are national leaders that are interested in what we write. They share it with other people, and it's just it's encouraging to know that people that far away and at that level of leadership are engaged in our content.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really amazing. Even when I was in London, I talked to, I think I told you I was speaking there, I believe his name was Edmund.
Right.
He's connected to our newsletter and reads that all the time as well.
Right, right. Well, and while we're on the international scene, Tamika, you recall that when we were in Orlando at Bishop Jake's leadership conference, that you and I met a young lady from South Africa.
Yeah, the head of marketing or branding for the nation.
Well,
yeah.
Well, what she did subsequent to our coming home, she asked me to sign a book to one of her friends in South Africa that works for a financial services firm. So I signed the book to her, and because I was in South Africa last week, I sent an email and said, I'm in South Africa. I will not be able to meet with you, but perhaps we can talk by phone. And sure enough, she called me Friday morning, and we talked for about a half an hour. One, she works for a financial services firm, a major South African financial services firm. Two, she's a strong Christian, goes to a marvelous church. And three, she has been doing what she calls financial boot camps at churches throughout South Africa. She's gotten our book, she's got the workbook. She believes that the key to what she's been trying to foster as an individual in South Africa is dfree. And so she's meeting with her pastor. She is going to arrange a conference call between us and her pastor and his team. And what she's going to propose is that we pilot dfree at the church she attends in South Africa, and then make dfree content what she uses at her financial boot camps to ensure that after the event's over, she can provide that as the preferred curriculum. And what I've promised her is that one or two of you will go to South Africa after conducting some online training and visit with them and really help that get started.
That's awesome.
Isn't
That's
that great?
awesome. Yeah, that's really big. And I think
He is
just having
very,
people
very, I
around.
mean, he's more so passionate. I wanted to three-way you all in so you can hear talking.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, I forget her name, but she works for a major firm. What is that noise?
I don't know.
Sanaa, is that you?
No, I was on mute.
The noise went away. Okay. So I'm very excited. As you know, we have interest from Botswana, and South Africa is right below Botswana. And if we do our job well, I think we'll have a Southern Africa emergence. In fact, I invited her to speak at our conference in October. So we should have a South African, at least a South African representative at the conference in October to talk about what's happening there. And by October, we should be up and running. So let's talk about training, Tamika, because one of my primary my primary commitments now between now and October is to make sure that any church that needs to be trained to launch dfree can be trained and without having to wait until October. And so we have a training event set up now, correct, for the month of August.
Yes, August 16th, we'll be doing dfree training, the 3-hour launch session at First Baptist, beginning at 3 p.m., running until 6 p.m. It'll be live streamed, so if you're not in New Jersey, you're welcome to grab your dinner and sit down in front of your computer and join us. It will also be recorded, so we're going to make it generic enough that anybody that needs to use it in the future will be able to share that with you so that you can get the training done on your own. So August 16th, mark your calendars. If you're in New Jersey, we'll have lunch available for purchase at 2, and then the training will start promptly at 3. And if you're part of our online team, feel free to log in. Go to mydfree.org/events to register, just so that we know that you're on the way. And that's it. So we hope to see you on the 16th.
So any church that has expressed an interest in getting started right now, we can actually invite them to this training, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So it's going to be live, but it's going to be streamed.
Yes.
Okay. What are we letting churches know? Do we have a list of the churches that need to know now is the time? For instance, the church in Fort Lauderdale, they've been waiting. The churches in Jersey, in Burlington, they've been waiting.
Yes. Yep. I've started sending the link out to all those churches that have reached out to me, and then we can also do one mass email to the ones that have shown interest since our last training. Yep.
Okay. Well, both of you, Sanaya, I know you didn't understand my email response to your very thoughtful email, but one of the things that is happening is that I'm actually going to 2 or 3 places that think I'm coming to launch dfree, and so I think what we've got to do is we've kind of merge efforts to make sure that you connect them to either the live event on the 16th or a recording of the event to ensure that the launch happens the way you want it to happen. For instance, I'm going to California.
The September. Yep.
You know about that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So you talked to Michelle about my schedule?
Yeah, she's giving me I think I have the September ones on the calendar already, but I'll get anything else that's off of our dfree calendar.
Good.
And we can just reach out to them. Yeah, we're in touch. I got it.
Okay, well that's good, and make sure you get whatever help you need in August to connect and follow up on those news.
Yeah.
When I talk about launch in August, and I'm writing this up in a format that hasn't existed before, here's where I think we are, and you can add or take away if you want. I've noticed 3 general approaches that churches use to launch dfree. Approach number 1 is the approach that they've used in Arlington, Texas, where they actually start the way the Delta Sigma Theta sorority started, and that is with a setting a goal, a church-wide goal just for paying off debt. You know, almost the way people do when they make New Year's resolutions. When we go into the new year, we always want to lose weight, stop smoking, do something. And Rick Warren really championed this. Rick Warren wrote the book Purpose Driven Life. To the extent that 4 out of 5 of us believe that getting out of debt is our number 1 financial priority. There are organizations that find it effective to launch dfree by having people make a commitment to paying down a certain amount of debt. And of course, we facilitate that with the $1 Billion Challenge website, giving people a tool to not only set their goals but track their progress and then celebrate. So that's approach number 1. It's connected to the $1 Billion Challenge. I think Tamika, we need to print some little dfree cards that we can use to help churches that want to start that way, so they can really quantify the amount of debt they're striving to pay off and do it the way we used to do the old thermometer thing as we raise money for building funds. So that's approach number 1. Approach number 2 is when churches have some kind of event. we will have a resource that they can use that we'll talk about before we depart, and a dfree event. Some churches, use the CNN documentary. Some churches use one of our clips from YouTube, but to have an event where the whole church is challenged around the issue of fiscal management, and then people are invited to class, and then dfree Sundays and other kinds of things happen in the church. So that would be generally approach number 2, where an event happens that's church-wide, a revival, a guest speaker, or the like. The third is a little more methodical. It's really the approach that I recommend in the book, and that is where a church or an organization will take a group of leaders through the entire dfree curriculum. Deacons, trustees, or economic empowerment ministry, they will actually go through it. They'll take 2 or 3 months to go through the book, the workbooks, so they, as individuals, aren't simply recommending dfree, but they're actually giving testimonies. I know we've done that with the Full Gospel Convention as an organization, and the Mother Church actually took 61 people through that through the dfree training. So I think as we prepare people, I probably, at least on the 16th, should kind of present that frame so that people understand, as they think about the content of dfree, the critical question is, how do I get started? And those are 3 basic ways that I think represent what churches and groups have been doing around the country to launch. Have you heard anything different?
No, I think there's that, and then there's, I guess, the 4th kind of spinoff is when they hear you preach, and then they reach out, and then we send them what they need, and they get started. And we've had, I think, 3 churches now that have either seen you speak without, just to kind of get the context of dfree, and have activated on their own, which have been really helpful. So if you're in a place, that's kind of the traditional model that we've been using. And then we send them the training.
Let's try to minimize that model.
Yeah, no, for sure, absolutely. But there are churches that are using now some of the previous trainings that we've recorded to actually get started. So they hear of you, they reach out, we get them the training, and they go. So we do have a few that are doing that.
Mm-hmm. And Sanaya, how does that connect with our digital strategy? Does it have any? Does that frame impact your work at all in any way?
So what I would like is for us to finalize the whole dfree in the box thing. So when people do say they're interested, we can set up their training and actually give them their materials, because that can be done online instead of like, I know, Tamika, we do have what we did for the Deltas. That's online, and that training stuff is online. So that's the only impact I have in terms of what the whole launching strategy.
Right.
I see we just have Rhonda joined us as well.
Yeah, that's good. Well, I think at least that's what I've had on my mind. I'm going to create at least one slide that summarizes that, because people ask the question, and I think the more they hear about the content, the more they're wondering in the back of their minds, okay, now how will I get this thing started? And we're asked that question more than any other question. I don't know about this dfree in a box, because I don't have a box of anything, but
it'll be a starter kit.
It'll be
called the starter kit, and kind of what I want to do with it is give them, once they're ready to sign up, they'll get a tech session as well, because I had a conversation with Michelle and the organization that she's helping get on board, and I want to make sure that they're not breaking any like anti-can spam act laws by emailing 500 people, because they are representing us. So I want to give them I want to have that training in there as well.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
there's more process than stuff.
We've been joined by a woman who has proven to have invaluable assets and make meaningful contributions to us, both personally and professionally, Ms. Rhonda Williams. I said to Tamika I wanted to hold off on discussing the full gospel experience until we were joined by a special guest. Rhonda is a consultant to the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. I think I said that right. Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship, which was founded by Bishop Paul S. Morton, and that fellowship is about 22, 23 years old, and we were in New Orleans at their annual convention 2 weeks ago. It was a marvelous experience, made marvelous in large measure because of Prudential sponsorship and Rhonda Williams. coordination. Rhonda, first of all, let me thank you for all of the coordination you did, all of the nice experiences that we had, all the good food we ate, all the fine people we met in New Orleans. We were absolutely treated royally. I couldn't figure out why. I thought it was because Tamika was there, but then I discovered it was because you were there. So let me thank you. And Rhonda, this was your first experience around dfree and hearing the presentation. And I just wanted you to join us tonight so that you could give us your perspective before we gave the world our perspective on the full gospel relationship.
Well, thank you so much, Pastor Soares, and hi, Tamika, and everyone else on the chat this evening. I was zooming like a maniac trying to get home in time to get on this call, so I'm just very delighted that I actually made it. So, having said all of that, we did have a great time in New Orleans. Full Gospel is forever changed because of the dfree presentation. Tamika and Pastor Soares did a phenomenal job. Each session over the course of 3 days was SRO, standing room only. We literally and physically had to turn people away. Fire marshals were coming up every day saying, we're going to have a problem, we're going to have to empty the room, clear it, nobody else can come in. So you guys did an amazing job. I actually, Pastor Soares, have a correction. I actually had the pleasure a few months ago in New Orleans to see both you and Tamika do your presentation of dfree at Greater St. Stephen with Pastor Deborah Morton. That was my first experience with it, and I knew it would be a sheer home run once it got to Full Gospel. Well, having said all of that, the results are still coming in. I'm still getting phone calls from various bishops and pastors wanting to get connected with dfree as a result of seeing the presentation, hearing the key influencers that are a part of Full Gospel as part of the executive team gathered and assembled there, telling them that they really need to know more about the program. Folks are downloading the books, sharing the books, and making their staff members get the books so that they can be brought up to speed on it. I do think that this is a great launching pad that was held in New Orleans, and it can only go higher from here. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm sure that both you and Tamika are getting calls, emails, whatever, text messages perhaps, from the folks who were in the class wanting more and more, wanting to know more and more about the program, how they can get their ministries involved, their civic and social organizations involved, and I think it's just a wonderful program. It's so timely, and it's now. It really is.
You know, Rhonda, I have never been to a Full Gospel event, to their national event. I know a lot of the players, as you know. I've been to Full Gospel churches and preached, etc. But being with that organization all week, it was striking to me that although it may not be the largest African American religious organization in the country, it may be the best organized, and it is obvious that the structure is intentional about empowering churches and making things happen. You know, often. I've been in this for 40 years now. Often when we get together, when black Christians get together, it's all about fellowship. You know, it's almost like secular groups that get together just for social reasons. We get together for fellowship, and we see people. It's like a big family reunion, and then the kind of subtext is people are looking for jobs. But this was the first gathering of its type. We're going next week to Greensboro, North Carolina. We're going to train 250 pastors in the Lot Carey organization. That organization is focused on missions rather exclusively. But Full Gospel is a different kind of movement, and I was pleased to see how intentional it was as it relates to churches being given resources to become better churches. I think Bishop Morton has done a phenomenal job creating that culture, and I think Bishop Walker, his successor, is going to take it to the next level as it relates to really serving churches. You know, most of our churches are struggling because most of our people are struggling. And you can't have prosperous churches unless you have prosperous people. You can't have empowered churches unless you have empowered people. And I was impressed by the Full Gospel organization. I was in awe of the way you moved in and out of the circles of leadership, first of all, as a woman, because black churches are dominated by male leadership, but as someone who understands the culture, understands the people, speaks the language, but also appreciates the corporate realities that African Americans often fail to understand.
Well, you're absolutely right, sir. And one of the key things, just to bring everyone up to speed, I am a daughter of Greater St. Stephen Full Gospel Baptist Church, born and raised in New Orleans. My mother is a church mother there, so my family has always been very well connected within Greater St. Stephen. Bishop Morton is family to me, so God has blessed me with a career where I actually have found great favor with a lot of corporate folks, and I'm trying very hard to help organizations such as Full Gospel develop and do better within the corporate arena. A lot of people don't like saying it, but God, the church, is a business. Right. And so in order to do effectively, you have to know how to move and groove within the corporate circles. You've got to know the wherewithal, what to do, what to say. And as you just said, they are struggling, many of them. I mean, I remember my very first Full Gospel conference 22 years ago, where the attendance was 50,000+ people. And now the number is cut in half by the nighttime participants and visitors that come, but there's so much other competition out there. However, the resounding voice is all the same. They all need help, and Right. They need the help that you can bring them and provide. So this is what our attempt will be, to further your mission and Tamika's with other churches and other organizations throughout the country.
So Tamika, what did you think of Miss Rhonda Williams? I mean, I was thoroughly impressed. I try not to be impressed with people, because if you're not impressed, you're disappointed. But this woman absolutely impressed me. You spent as much time with her, if not more, than I did, and you came to lunch at that nice restaurant. What
I love Rhonda. We have a special relationship that predates, I think, Full Gospel a little bit. Like you said, she's amazing at what she does. It's so embarrassing. He makes you flatter people on screen, but this is awesome. You should hear this. She understands how church functions, and also understands what it means, like you said, from a corporate perspective, to intersect those two. And we fight that battle a lot from dfree in terms of how you maneuver between what the church is doing versus what the rest of the world is doing. And I think she understands that, and she helps to translate that to the leadership, who may not necessarily be thinking along those lines. So if it's, I guess, the role of a translator, if you will, and a connector, is what we all kind of play in this space, especially around money. And I think, I'm going to be a little premature and say welcome aboard, because we will need you as we continue to grow.
Well, thank you so much, Tamika. Thank you. And I will just say this and add to this, that this is truly a faith walk, because it's probably one of the most challenging tasks that I've had thus far in my career. This is a God-given journey for me, because, the church needs this in order to grow and move to the next level. They've got to have what you guys are offering to them, and they've also got to have corporate support, but they need to know how to nurture and grow and develop these relationships. So, a lot of times, a lot of people don't like advice. They don't like to hear what you have to say, and they certainly don't like where there are stipulations that are involved. But, it's a given. It's a must. And so it's key learning on both sides. And so this is what my task is, and I'm just happy to have you guys bring to the table something that they can not only chew on, but digest, because they need it. I realize you guys are running out of time, so I'm not going to take any more time, but thank you so much, Pastor Soares, for this.
Wait a minute. No, you can't just get off. I ask you to get off. I want, you talked about being born in New Orleans, your mother's a church, mother to church, but take a couple more minutes and tell us about you. Who are you, and where are you from, and how did you get from wherever you used to be to doing this kind of work now?
Oh, Lord. Oh, my goodness. I didn't realize that this was going to be This Is Your Christian Life this evening. But at any rate, okay. So I am from New Orleans, born and educated in the New Orleans private school system. Went from there to LSU, did some graduate studies, NYU, and I moved to New York back in 1987. I moved to New York where I got my first full-time job with Avon Products in Manhattan on 57th Street. Started off as a coordinator, moved my way up through the ranks to senior director. Helped develop and oversaw global supplier development strategies for Avon, where we actually brought on board minority and women-owned businesses globally. I did a lot of S8 certifications, worked with MedWeek, worked with a lot of different women-owned enterprise groups. And then I did that successfully for 13 years and then realized I needed to change. Then formed a partnership with two really close sister friends of mine called Odyssey. And we did conferences and events for affluent and influential women of color. I bucked the system for a long time, did not want to do sponsorships at all. I went in telling them, no, you misunderstand. People sell to me, I don't sell to them. Well, I sat at the feet of one woman who was a partner at Odyssey, and what she did, she was the leading sales exec for IBM, and at that time, anybody who could sell $400 to $500 million in sales a year, they were a true champion, and she was that. So I literally sat at her feet and learned the skill set of selling very well. I learned from my boss at Avon, how to be effective and assertive without being offensive in a very male-dominated society, especially when you work within the corporate arena. So, I honed my craft, did very well with it. Within 5 years, we grew our Odyssey business from 4 sponsors to, under my watchful eye, thank you, Lord, to over 25 major sponsors, and that was everybody from Starbucks to Mercedes-Benz, Nordstrom, IBM, Prudential. So I've been doing business with Prudential for over 15 years now, different folks within Prudential. And so this time with Dorinda is really exciting as well because I love what she's doing. I love the platform that she set up for Prudential. It's totally different from anything that they've done before.
Yeah.
I know their brand very well. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I know their brand very well. So, and that just goes from everyone from beverage companies to motor vehicle companies to airlines to hotels to banking institutions, you name it. I've crossed all arenas. I've actually sat and worked with Howard Schultz. Of course, I've done MegaFest before. I've done Full Gospel. I've done a lot of different things. I mean, you guys don't have that much time this evening to hear my entire batade, but
I only asked for 2 minutes anyway, so.
I'm sorry?
I only asked for 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
Oh, so that's in a nutshell. So I got it, and I'm excited to explore further, what it is that you are endeavoring to do. With Tamika right there as your right hand, you guys are doing an incredible job. I am most impressed with what I've seen thus far, and I know that it only gets better from here. So
thank you. Thank you. Well, first of all,
you.
Tamika, you should know I invited Rhonda at about 6:40 p.m. And she broke every traffic law she could between South Jersey and North Jersey. And the issue is, but she's so valuable. Rhonda, we respect you, we appreciate you, and we look forward to talking with you like tomorrow about how you can help us expand, deepen, and promote the brand. I was talking earlier about the brand. I'm not interested in my brand as much as I am the dfree brand because it represents a movement and a strategy for people that need financial empowerment. So thank you. We've got 2 minutes left, and I want to say a word or two about this conference before we go off. All right. So thank you, Ms. Rhonda, for joining us tonight.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.
Bye, Rhonda.
You want me to hang up now?
Yeah, hang up.
Oh, bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, dear. Ladies, it's clear to me, a couple of things are clear to me. Number one, it looks like this August 27th event to celebrate our 10th anniversary and to launch our dfree movie is going to happen. Is that am I reading that right, Tamika?
Yes, you are reading that right. We are awaiting a few minor details and we should be ready to go. So I'll just tell folks, save the date, August 27th, and we'll get you additional details before then. But just stay tuned, stay on the website, make sure you're on the newsletter because you guys will be the first ones to hear about
Okay.
the amazing event we have set for the
So,
27th.
so our big dates in August, what, August 16th is training, right?
Yes.
August
15th is our actual monthly seminar, and we'll be talking about wealth protection.
seminar, and I need you to take the word wealth out of that seminar, otherwise no one will be there. And then August 20, 27th is our large event in Newark. It's free, it's public. Everybody should, we want everybody there. And then September, we're launching in California. October 30th and 31st, we're having our dfree conference. It's clear to me that we're going to have 2 tracks again. We're going to have a leadership track and a public track because so many people have missed our seminars, have missed Lynette Califani-Cox, have missed our student loan expert, and we're going to have more of that to make sure we touch people the way people need to be touched. I would love to have this as only a leadership conference, but I think we have to take advantage of the fact that we'll be in the space, we've got experts available, and we're going to have to do both. So I'll be contacting the 2 of you about additional speakers and put together some new promotional material. So now I will change the schedule and we'll roll it out this week, okay?
All right.
Great. All right, ladies, it's 9:01. We started a little late, but we're in close to on time. Maybe we'll do a special webinar just to talk about the conference sometime in the next couple of weeks. Okay? Great.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Sanaya, are you in the country for the next few days?
Yes, I am in the country for the next few days.
All right, wonderful. Glad.
I won't be in the state, but I'll be in the country.
Oh Lord. All right. Thank you, everybody. We're going from live to not live now.
All right. Bye, everybody. Good night. All right. Are we staying on?